Well, I've made Tony comfortable here, and I'm going to demonstrate what I normally do in a session. Normally I begin just by feeling the craniosacral pulse, very, very gently. I'm feeling for rate, amplitude, symmetry of this movement that I described earlier, of moving in and out, where when you increase in volume, you turn outwards, and when you decrease in volume, you turn inwards. And I'm feeling for areas of the body that may be restricted. And it's these various areas of the body, especially these 5 areas of the body, where there are potentials for restrictions, because this is an area where the fascia tends to run horizontally rather than vertically.
Okay.
And now I'm going to be beginning to feel the cranial pulse at the back of the head, at the occiput, which is where it's easiest to feel. And I'm feeling the movement, the pushing out of the cranial bones, and then back in again. So essentially what I'm doing is feeling with my hand, if you can just hold this for me, Tony. Yeah? I'm feeling with my hands at the back here and squeezing at these joints, because when it increases in volume, it pushes out at the back and then closes back up again like that. So I'm feeling for how easily these joints will separate.
Now we're talking like microns or?
Yes, microns to very small.
Like less than a millimeter.
Very much less than a millimeter, but it is palpable. I can feel it, and anybody can be trained to feel it. It takes quite a bit of patience, and perhaps an understanding of the anatomy, but anybody can be trained to feel it. It is quite an art, and some people at the beginning of the training don't get it right away, but usually by the end of the first course, people have a pretty good understanding of it. Now, the reason that it's important is that I can manipulate. I can hold the movement from going where it wants to go, and in stopping it, with this manipulation, it turns your system off for a brief moment, and that's often when we feel very relaxed. In fact, when you are working at a computer, for example, spending much of the day in front of it, you want to have a moment to rest. You lean back, you put your hands behind your head, and hold it like that.
Right.
You're doing exactly what we've just done. It's called inducing a still point. And you can do this at home by using a still point inducer. This is something that you can just lay on quietly for 10 or 15 minutes. And you can make one of these at home if you want by putting 2 tennis balls into a sock and folding the sock together so that the tennis balls don't separate when you're laying on them.
So right now I've got my back of my skull on those 2 points on the ball.
That's right.
So it's not below the skull then?
No, it's not below. It's at, essentially, if I can just take this back out,
Okay.
you will see that it sits like so, at
So
the back
just
like
on the,
that.
what we call the occiput?
On the occiput, not at the neck, where neck and head meet,
Okay.
but at the occiput, because that's where you can turn off the cranial pulse. When I'm working here, I'll slide my hand under your sacrum and one under the occiput, and sliding it back and forth. And what I'm doing essentially when I do that is this. I'm pulling up this way and then pulling this way. And because the cranial bones are the only points at which it's anchored, the rest of it is free floating in your spine, and so it's almost like flossing your teeth, pulling back and forth. Yeah? Now normally I would have about an hour to an hour and a half to do this sort of work, and their manipulations are very specific.
And unfortunately we don't have an hour and a half
Yes.
right now, but we can take a small break and come back and wrap this all up.